Emilie, our perfume specialist, is here, everyone. Look at her, isn't she lovely? Now, at first I didn't really take in her design that well, but now that I've put for her and, been using her for a bit, I actually find that she is pretty sexy. So overall, not a bad character design. But obviously, guys, we're here not to talk about Emilie's design, right? We're going to be looking into her usual best themes after I've been testing her out for quite a lot yesterday. So we're definitely going to be looking in depth into that. Now guys, if you've been watching some of my video, you know that I've been recommending you guys loot bar for around 3 times before, and I believe that it worked pretty well for you guys. So if you don't know what loot bar is, they actually help you to top up Primogems with very safe and secure transactions while having lower pricing discount and a very much trustworthy service with over 100,000 orders, with the majority of the reviews being 5 stars. So check out loot bar through the link in my description, guys, if you usually top up, as it is a very good way to get Primogems with lower pricing. Okay, so before we touch on Emilie's teams, guys, let's talk about some of the most important notes whenever you are using Emilie, so that you are well aware of how to use her. Now, Emilie, the most important thing I would just have to say is that she is a character that specifically is going to be used in a burning team. Now, she's not going to be strictly a character to be in a burning team as other characters like Nilu or Charus, where they are pretty much locked in a Bloom or an Overload team, right? However, that still doesn't mean that her team variety is going to be that large out of a burning box, because technically speaking, if there is no burning reactions for Emilie, she will basically do no damage. Therefore, burning reactions on Emilie team is going to be a must. Other than that, her gameplay is pretty much simple, guys. You just have to cast her E skill, and then her burst is also going to be the one that does quite a bit of damage for her, and also acts as a skill in which it resets her elemental skill for you while keeping the level of her E skill, which is why generally speaking you wouldn't really want to press Emilie E skill, because that resets her skill back to level 1, and what you want to do is basically just cast her burst, and then on top of dealing damage, she's just going to reset your skill at level 2, which is going to be the best thing. Now, passive talent is overall very simple. Her first passive is going to be there and helps you do a ton of damage, so that's very important. The second passive allows you to have more damage bonus over all of her kit depending on how much attack she has built. So overall, this is going to max out at 2400 attack, which I don't think is going to be too hard for you to build. However, that is also not going to be a reason for you to switch an attack goblet in place of Dendro damage bonus, because Dendro goblet is always going to be the best. So overall, her artifacts build is just going to be attack, Dendro, and crit ratio as always. Now, for the artifact sets, usually the burning set is going to be the best. However, I do feel that the deep wood sets are generally going to be a more universal set for Emilie, because first of all, not only that it's easier for you to build at this point, because I'm pretty sure you guys got a ton of deep wood set, but secondly, in order for Emilie to use the burning set, while you're technically going to need another Dendro character on your team to have a deep wood set. Now, once we touch into the teams later on, you may realize that Emilie won't have another Dendro character on her team to help her with deep wood many of the time. So generally speaking, I still do prefer you guys to build a deep wood set other than the burning set due to resin's efficiency at this point. And then another pretty important thing I would say is coming down to her weapons. Now, her weapons is going to be in a little bit of a troublesome situations, because if you don't have a 5-star option for her 4-star options are actually very bad. Now, the best free-to-play options would be the Missive Wind Spear. However, not that many of us have access to this spear because it is an event limited weapon, and also the Missive Wind Spear would still be quite a downgrade compared to some of the other 5-star options out there as well. So generally speaking, I would say the best 4-star options would be an R5 deathmatch at this point in time, but that's not considered as free to play because you are considered to buy a battle pass. Other than that, if you don't have a Missive Wind Spear, the other good options, would kind of be the catch, but you wouldn't use a catch on Emilie because that is safe for either Xiangling or your Raiden Shogun. Then the final free to play options would be you know, the Favonius lands, which is really sucks because that basically deals no damage for you. It does solve your energy regen a little bit. However, energy regen issue on Emilie is really much of a thing because as you can see, my Emilie is basically on 120% energy recharge and she's more than capable enough to already have burst every single rotations. So generally speaking, you only need to have around like 115% energy recharge and you're pretty much good to go. So I don't think you have to really fret too much about energy regen on Emilie. So overall guys, I would say those are going to be some of the most important points for Emilie at this point in time, and so we're going to be looking into her best teams, which is where the interesting parts actually comes. Okay, the first team is going to be very much a free-to-play friendly team for you and it works absolutely well in a burning situation, and that's going to be Emilie, Bennett, Xiangling and Sucrose. Or you know, if you have Nahida on your account, then I believe Nahida can be a better option for you here, because not only does Nahida helps you with Dendro Resonance for Emilie, she also helps Emilie to have more burning reaction uptime, which is really nice considering Emilie isn't a character that helps you to have that much of a Dendro reactions or applications. And furthermore, Nahida is going to be a character that runs Deepwood set, therefore a burning set on Emilie really works well here in this situation. So overall, this team, I would say, is a very simple team to run. Now, I mean, yeah, Emilie is a character that's very easy for you guys to play around with because yeah, she just technically slot into a burning team, set up her E skill, and then she doesn't really need to do anything else. It's similar to how Farina works, right? So overall, most free-to-play friendly options would be you having a Sucrose, very well working teams. The downside is that you're now having like Bennett and Sucrose are the two characters who doesn't really deal much damage, and then Xiangling and Emilie there is going to be the character that tries to carry the team in terms of damage output. Now the downsides of a burning reactions, of course, is that burning reaction does not deal a lot of damage by itself. Therefore, even if you have a Sucrose on the team buffing EM, right, Xiangling burning reactions isn't going to be there doing that much damage for you. So obviously I would recommend you to have a Nahida on this team for a much easier time of damage output. But overall, other than that, it is a very free to play friendly team. Now the next team is going to be a very much invested burning team. However, I do feel that many of you guys do have this option as well, and that's going to be Emilie, Bennett, Alekino, and Kazuha. Obviously, Nahida can be slotted here as well, but overall, I feel that Kazuha is very important because of all the damage buff that he provides to the team. Well, not to Emilie specifically, but it does come toward Alekino. And this team, technically speaking, guys, is currently Emilie's best team right now, and also one of Alekino's better team options out there too. Because obviously we already know how much damage output Emilie has in her arsenal. She does a lot of damage by herself, especially in the burning team reactions. And then Alekino right there, we have Bennett and Kazuha to buff her damage as well. So overall, this team does a ton of damage. And yes, I've already run through the abyss and this team does absolutely perfectly every single time as long as Alekino doesn't die. Next interesting team options is going to be Neuvillette, Xiangling, Farina, and Emilie. Now I do say this team is quite interesting because while this team for you to have Emilie level 2 E skill up isn't really an easy thing. Sometimes she is going to go back down to a level 1. However, her level 2 E skill is still going to be there. However, this team has good potential because it deals a ton of damage. Honestly, guys, we already have Neuvillette and Farina combinations, and Neuvillette is going to be there deal a ton of damage for you. You have insane number of off-field damage from Farina and Emilie, not to mention Xiangling is there's going to be a sub DPS power as well, and yes, Xiangling is going to be there doing a lot of vaporized damage altogether, which is very good. However, this team has one major downside, is that there's no healer at this point in time. I would love to slot in Bennett. However, if Bennett were to be there, Emilie wouldn't really have much of a burning reactions to play upon. Therefore, Bennett technically doesn't work, and so this team has to run without a healer for the time being. Or you can just, you know, slot Bennett in Farina's place. However, that's gonna like dramatically decrease Neuvillette DPS level. Therefore, it's going to be very hard for a Bennett to be slot in. And so if you don't clear out these teams in, you know, at least 1 or 2 rotations, you're going to be in a bit of a trouble because Farina HP sapping is just going to be notoriously high for this team. So you are risking in a situation where your other sub DPS character is going to get killed quite easily. Now Neuvillette, you know, he has self-sustained, so he doesn't really have much of a trouble, which which is why I say that this team is going to be best in terms of kind of like a speed run team or one rotation kind of teams, those kind of things, guys. And it's not fitting for you to do many rotations. And then another teams that I find works absolutely well at this point in time, guys, is going to be Emilie, Bennett, Xiangling, and Furina. This is a very, very interesting team, guys. And I feel that it's one of the better teams that I have on my account so far, because while we have a lot of sub DPS damage character for you, we're fixing kind of like a major downside of the team above, because now we have Bennett to actually heal your whole team. Therefore, this team is going to be sustaining yourself a lot faster and technically can work in a long abyss run. So it's overall a very, very good team. Now my Furina here is technically at a C3, therefore overall this team is going to be the best team for Emilie at this point for me on my account. But overall, even if you only have a C0 Emilie, yeah, this team still works pretty fine, because you're still going to be able to keep Emilie burning reactions up many of the time due to Bennett and Xiangling both being here on the team. And Furina, yeah, you're still going to be able to do a lot of E-skill sub DPS damage for the team. So overall, a very easy team for you to run. Now, there are some honorable mentions or the teams that I have already tried out, however, doesn't make it to, you know, the best team for Emilie at this point in time. However, I'm still going to be mentioning you guys here quickly, but do keep in mind, guys, is that this team overall is just going to be there for you to have some fun gameplay. They are not going to be work that well for you, or sometimes downright bad. And overall, it's not a team that I would recommend you to compete in the meta at this point in time. First of all, that is going to be like a Ganyu Burn Melt team or Rio Burn Melt. And I don't have Rio to showcase you here on the video, but Ganyu Burn Melt overall, she technically works okay alongside with Emilie Burn Melt. Now the biggest downside is that Ganyu does not have any defensive utility, so that's going to be a huge downside for Ganyu here. Obviously that's more or less of a trouble if you're using Rio. So Royal is going to have a lot better time running a Burn Melt situation with an Emilie team. However, Emilie Ryo team is not going to be the best for him, because Ryo has technically another better team for him to run at this point in time, and that's going to be a Furina in Emilie's place. That team technically is going to be the highest damaging Ryo team at this point in time, and it's very hard for Emilie to compete. However, if you still want to use it, overall it is a fine team. However, it is not the best. Another pretty fun team I would say is going to be Sichuan, Bennett, Furina, and Emilie. Now it's kind of like a team where we're trying to salvage Sichuan bad situation at this point in time. Overall, it is a fine team for you to run, because if you didn't forget, then Sichuan has the ability to actually increase your team E-skill damage by a pretty good amount. So on top of Sichuan having the ability to team-wide heal, then buffing E-skill of Furina and Emilie together as well, overall it is going to be a fine situation. And then you have Emilie being on the field, having a C6 Bennett so that Emilie can do her normal attack for a constant burning reaction up. Overall, I think it's a fine team, but I don't think many of us do have Sichuan. However, this is kind of like a team where if you do love Sichuan and you have, you know, pretty much her invested, then you can technically use her at this point in time. And then the final team is technically going to be an overload burning reaction teams, where I use Sino with Thoma, Bennett, and Emilie for a test out, because my speculation is that unlike a Nahida for a Sino team in the past, Nahida isn't a character that's very good in multi-wave situation, and Sino considering to be a character that has very long burst situation, Emilie is technically going to be a better character for you. And I've went into the abyss, tried this team out, and it turned out to be one of the worst Emilie team at this point in time. This Sino team can't even, you know, clear out the first wave of the first chamber in one rotation, making it dragging the time very, very long. And overall, it's kind of like a clunky team. I feel it's not very good. So overall, I think you guys can try some other overload burning team with, you know, Emilie, Thoma, Fischl, and then Nahida. That team might also be pretty decent, but as you can see, it's not going to be a very good team, guys. So honestly, I don't really recommend you to use it at this point in time. So overall, I would say that, guys, Emilie at this point in time doesn't really have a very much specific team that pulls out the best potential of her currently, because if you really look into it, she just have Alekino team to be the best team that she has access to at this point in time. You know, the Emilie, Bennett, Xiangling, and Furina team overall can work. However, if you don't really have a very much invested drafted Furina, I don't think that team is going to be outbeating the Alecchino overall. So if you're really looking into it, Emilie only has one team at this point. However, I still very much like Emilie because if you know me, I'm pretty much a sucker for sub DPS character in Genshin Impact, especially when Emilie is a sub DPS character that does not rely on you having to weave in normal attack. She just set up her E skill and then she's pretty much good to go. I really like her in that part. But moreover, Emilie has a lot kind of like future proof or future potential. Whenever Natlin character comes, I feel that, you know, Kinich might be a character that uses Emilie to be on his team very, very well. Obviously, we still have to wait for more Kinich information in order for us to know, but in terms of Emilie's kit at this point in time, I do feel that she has a lot of potential. So if you do have already pulled for Emilie, overall she's a very solid character for you to build around at this point in time, and I just feel that she's going to be even better as time goes on. So guys, I think that's all the team discussion I have at this point in time. If you do have any questions or any other Emilie teams that you really like, just feel free to leave it down in the comment section and I will get to you there. If you did enjoy the video guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so do not miss out on my future videos. I really appreciate you guys staying with me to this part of the video guys, and with that I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.